I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting held on June 19th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, discuss electrical aggregation program. Dave?
Thank you, Trustee Yonker. The village's current electric aggregation contract with Dynegy Energy is expiring in October. So this is a time when we renew it, get new bids, because typically it takes about 70 days to set up the new program. We did do bids this year. This year, due to market conditions, and we're not the only ones, we are not really saving residents money on electrical bills. The market's changed. Some of the ComEd contracts have expired that were more costly. And so all the prices that are in the packet, as you can see, they're well above the ComEd rate of 7.75 cents. So NIMEC is offering a new option to communities for their consideration. Essentially, it's a modified aggregation program where the electricity provided is 100% renewable. And we discussed this with the Admin and Legal Committee a couple weeks ago. And so essentially would float with whatever the ComEd rate is. And just as a reminder, for this program, the electric aggregation program, this is something that was created as a result of the state law that changed about eight years ago that allowed communities to essentially create an opt-out aggregation program where you could go and buy power on the private market and residents would be enrolled unless they choose to opt out. And so this program, like our past programs, would be run the same way. Residents would get a postcard. They'd have a certain amount of time to opt out, and if they didn't, they would stay in the program. They could still opt out even within the current year if they chose to, if missing that initial deadline. So basically, there's essentially 3 options. One would be allow the program to expire if the board is not interested in this alternate program. 2 would be to accept the low bidder. That obviously wouldn't make much sense because that low bid rate is higher than the ComEd rate. Or the third option is really the renewable aggregation. And so essentially, as discussed in the memo, the way this works is that the supplier, which is MC Squared, would purchase what's called renewable energy credits, and the village would receive a designation as a U.S. EPA green power community, and all energy produced would be considered renewable. And so again, residents would still get their the bill would still continue to be billed by ComEd, but the energy would actually come through MC Squared in this renewable energy program. Residents could opt out and they would go automatically to the ComEd non-green program. So really at this point we need to make a decision just to be able to start the process tonight. Just as, again, NIMEC is this is the agency most communities in Illinois use. They're basically an aggregations consultant. We don't pay them anything. They're essentially paid on a commission basis from the winning supplier, so it's not a cost to the village or residents. And at the meeting, Trustee Berg did suggest that we have the Environmental Enhancement Commission looking at it. They actually happen to have their meeting tonight in about an hour. All indications are, in talking to the chair and based on some of their past discussions, they are going to support this, and I believe, depending on when their meeting ends, they may come to the meeting and offer their support. So that's it. So we need to decide if we're going to move forward with this or not.
I'll go ahead. I was at the meeting where this was discussed, and my concerns were, although I'm all for green energy and green in general, I want to make sure there's some way to monitor to ensure that we're actually getting the green energy and to also ensure that they're matching ComEd's rates, which was part of what they said. And then I'd also, if there is such an agreement, like to see some type of an escape clause. So if they weren't fulfilling those obligations of providing actual green energy and And keeping it at the same rate, that there'd be a way out.
They do, yeah, they do match the rates.
Well, no, I know they said that, I'd want it written into the language with an escape clause. In Aurora, residents were paying like 8 cents a kilowatt hour when ComEd's rate was 6, and they were stuck in an aggregate agreement. So ideally, we don't get in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Dave, do you have that letter from Hannah that you sent,
A letter from Hannah?
that was in the packet?
Yeah, it's in the packet, yeah.
Do you want to highlight that?
Sure. So, again, it's based on some of the questions from Trustee Berg and Panito, but Hannah did some research on the, essentially what's called these renewable energy certificates. So, essentially what these RECs are, it's a generation, going to get into technical stuff here, and I'm just reading what we, the information, but it's a generation of 1 megawatt hour of electricity. And RECs are essentially the currency of the renewable energy market, and they allow anyone, anywhere to purchase renewable energy. Each REC is uniquely numbered and therefore can be tracked. And they have an independent verification and audit of these certificates. So the high standards for renewable energy sold to consumers and businesses in the U.S. and through the verification procedures ensures the transparency. And so basically purchasing these RECs, the additional energy projects are supported. So we'll have a representative from the consultant is actually coming to the EEC meeting at 7, and they'll come also to our board meeting too if there's some additional questions on this. But it is on the agenda for tonight.
Do you have another?
Anybody else have any questions?
Is
Mike?
there, well, never mind. I'm good.
I just wanted to reiterate that
Yeah.
I would like it to be an opt-in program as opposed to an opt-out program for the citizens. I feel this is government overreach of us to put them all in the program and then be up to them to take themselves out.
Yeah, and again, we would have to, we'd have to create a whole new program. The opt-out is what we've been doing, what the residents approved at a referendum. So, I'm not sure this program would be available through an opt-in because you probably wouldn't get the same numbers.
When was
Well, I
that
agree with
referendum?
Trustee Berg. It's like when a store gives you a rain check. They'll give you lots of rain checks because they know you're going to forget about it or not go back in to get it or whatever it might be, and they're way ahead of the game. To opt in, or to opt out, people may get a postcard maybe to say they're
Right.
going to do this, get it, not pay much attention to it, throw it away as junk mail, and now they're stuck with being stuck in it as opposed to being able to have to opt out of it.
Well, they can opt, as I mentioned, they can opt out later. So, but that is the reason why these programs work, is they get essentially a larger group of people through these programs, and that's how they get some of the cost savings. So, again, this is, if the board does not want to do this, this is really just to give you the option of whether or not you want your residents to have the ability to be in a program that has renewable energy and savings on, CO limits and things like that. So
Well, I think I'm supportive of the program, except for that. I know that Orland Park had sent out a letter March 15th, and the citizens went bonkers, and the next day they had sent out a letter to opt in.
okay. I
Just concerned about
have to
that
do
at this
some
time.
research on that, so.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
First anybody's mentioned to me about this, no, I don't. So
This
No.
might have been discussed in the committee. You said something about a referendum. Can you kind of give the history of that? There was a
Yeah.
referendum passed in Temple Park, and can you give us the?
Yeah, it was a referendum, yeah, it was, yeah, essentially,
That's when the state basically.
yeah, the state, there was legislation passed about 8 years ago that basically gave communities the right to do this if they passed a resident referendum. So I know, I went through it in my community that I was working at that time, And Tinley Park went through it, and it was approved, I think.
Is there overwhelming support for it from the community, I suppose, is what I'm asking, when it comes to rough run?
What the results were. It soundly passed. It wasn't a close margin. You might remember.
Thanks.
What you're explaining currently for the resident, they're not saving anything. They could go direct to ComEd, get the same price, or go with this program and get the same price.
Yeah, it's really, the benefit is the green energy. It's not cash saving, so.
Any other questions? If not, number 4, discuss HARP Group, Tinley Park Convention Center.
Give me 1 second. Okay, so again, not to go through kind of what we went through last meeting, but I wanted to highlight just some of the major developments since the last meeting. So again, tonight on the agenda is the approval of 3 agreements. One is the management contract for the convention center with HARP, which replaces our current management contract, as well as the 2 incentive agreements with District 227 and 159. Both school districts have approved those agreements, and again, they agreed to abate the property taxes along with the village up to $4 million, which we estimate to be about a 7-year abatement. And the high school is getting a number of internships. Both districts are getting consultation for improving cooking facilities as well as discounts for school events. So what was up in the air last time is then what would happen after 7 years. We did agree that we were going to, if we could not renew with the schools, and our hope is to do that, that we would pledge the hotel tax dollars that went, that is going towards the Holiday Inn, and in the future would be the Sheraton, towards that. And the question was how much. So that amount is in the packet here, and basically what's being proposed is that all hotel taxes up to $350,000 would be shared equally by the village and developer, with the village guaranteed $175,000, which is currently what we're approximately paying for both debt service as well as our CVB contribution. Between $350,000 and $500,000, the developer retains 75% of the tax. Over $500,000, the developer retains 85%. And in no event would they receive more than $750,000. So, and again, that's the number that essentially they're getting in the first 7 years when you add in the abatements plus the 1% that the village has pledged. So, as we've discussed, this is, we think, this is a challenging situation, as we've talked about, because of the extremely high taxes on the Holiday Inn property compared to other sites. We've been working on something to replace the $860,000 offset that's going to go away with the TIF expiring, and we were able to get a reduction in the offset and kind of come up with some creative ways to still partner with the school districts and use our hotel tax dollars, which are generated by the facility, I think, to make this done. So this is a good agreement, and something I think will be very good for the future of the village with the new developers, the new Sheraton, and partnership with the districts.
Just so I'm clear on it, the 1% tax, that's going to be a new tax on hotels.
Correct.
And we're going to rebate just the tax generated from that hotel, the Sheraton, or whatever branded hotel it ends up being, or
No, the
that's not shared
1%
from
is
others?
going to be on all the hotels, okay?
Well,
and
the
that's-
tax will be on all of them, but this rebate part will just be what they generate from theirs?
No. So in the first 7 years, the 1% will be used. There's a $750,000 gap we're trying to fill. And in the first 7 years, we estimate the abatement is going to reach, I think, about 670,000 of that.
Right.
Okay, and then the 1% is going to help close that gap. There will still be additional funds available, assuming the hotels do well, for things like marketing the plaza and other marketing that we want to do. Once the 7 years has passed, then we go to the entire hotel tax for the Sheraton. That's what that formula that I was talking about is.
Right, but it's the hotel tax for the Sheraton, not other hotels.
Correct.
Just want to make sure.
Correct,
that-
yep.
okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? If not, number 5, discuss South Street reconstruction. Kevin?
All right, this is another TIF project that we're trying to get done before the end of the year. It's going to be for realignment of South Street from Oak Park Avenue to 67th, going to 174th. This consists of reconstructing the street, replacing the storm sewers, relocating the sanitary sewer for future development, and it'll be blocking one entrance off at the Metro lot closest to Oak Park for safety reasons. This went out for bid on Tuesday, July 10th. We received the bids. Austin Tyler Construction won the bid. $680,385.75 was the lowest bid. We have money funded in the TIF to pay for this, and we're recommending this to be put on tonight's Village Board agenda.
Any questions?
I had a question on
Go ahead,
that. In the agenda packet, number 24, where it kind of, you do the reading for the item, it says that they're eliminating one of the entrances.
Correct. So it's the closest one to Oak Park Avenue.
Okay.
Due to the proximity of how close it is to Oak Park Avenue, it's a safety issue, so that entrance has to be blocked off.
Is it going to be eliminated forever or just
Yeah,
blocked
forever.
off for a
No,
while?
it's going to be forever. That won't be eliminated. The other entrance will still be there, but it's too close to Oak Park Avenue for traffic.
Did we get clearance from Metra on it, or?
Yeah, that's all been worked out.
Okay.
Because we're redoing the Metro lot there also, so.
Okay. And in traffic, somebody's kind of studied it, we'll still have ways to get in and out?
Right, that was actually mentioned before, that one should have been closed a while ago. But we waited for the reconstruction of the roadway.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions on the reconstruction? If not, receive comments from the public. Anyone wish to address the board in regards to the special committee of the whole meeting agenda?
Just a couple questions. Does this agreement with this HARP group, does this go to, like the ECC? Does that go through there? Who reviews, who's the group that's reviewing that for financial? Who's looking at it for what's the effect financially this year and the out years?
Yeah.
Who
Well,
does that?
we've
Who's in that
reviewed
group?
it internally. Brad's reviewed it.
So no consultant? We don't bring in a consultant for any of
We
this?
did not use that consultant for this, so.
And do you review the financial statements of whoever is going to gain this? I mean, do we know how profitable they've been? Here's my concern. A TIF, in my mind, is to generate new income, new businesses, bring them, get them set up, not to fund them forever. And I would have hoped, knowing the profits of, the last hotel and convention, the management company, we wouldn't still continue to fund that, because I understand the schools are okaying this to be done, but we all know that's just taxes I'm going to pay somewhere else, right? I pay the school, my tax bill, the highest tax item is the schools. But I really believe it's probably because of the TIFs. And that's why they're not, they have to keep increasing to get more money for us to pay. Our taxes are high. I just feel like we continue to give out so much away. And I'm happy to get the business, and I wonder when we decide to hire. It seems like we hire consultants on some things, and something like this, I hope that you have the financial knowledge up here to make this call. Seems like why we wouldn't have an expert look at this. Is there an expert in the group?
Just again, this TIF has really been one of the most successful TIFs probably in the state. And so.
And how do you base that success?
Based on the growth in the assessed value. And of the TIF since its inception? Yeah. And
How
so.
much money it pulled in?
Yeah, and so the thing to remember here is that what we're asking the school districts is for a 7-year period to essentially rebate 50% of just the hotel. But in the meantime, with the TIF coming off, they're going to get all that increased value that's happened over the last 23 years due to the TIF. That's going to be free for them to spend on, whatever their needs are.
Do you know what that is, like an annual amount they're gonna get next year? What will be the first
Yeah,
year's overs?
we did have that amount, but I don't know off the top of my head. I can
Could you-
definitely get that for
could
you. 'cause
Could
it's-
you let me know?
yeah,
I'd like to
yeah.
understand how
Sure.
that money, because
It's a
in my
significant
mind, and
amount of money, so-
I get it, we go for grants, we go for all this stuff, it's all the same money to me. My taxes are my taxes, I pay
Yeah.
it everywhere, and I'm overtaxed. And I'm tired of, we're gonna get a grant, I get it, but who's paying for that
Mhm.
grant? I am somewhere else.
Yeah.
You're just up in it somewhere else. That, I think, was the only thing I wanted to say, and about those,
Okay.
just internships, maybe just triggered a thought in my mind. My company, we give out internships, paid internships, we have 6 people all the time, constant turnover.
Yeah.
When you're reaching out to them to give, these internships, that's something really an idea to do in this village. We have a lot of businesses, that'd be great if we could get them to, hire a kid, with, a Tinley Park thing, it just
Right.
is kind of a cool thing. Thank you.
If there's no one else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.